Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome to From the Depths and a quick guide on custom jets because someone so nicely requested that I do one over in my Patreon Discord, which you can get through supporting me on Patreon. Did I mention I have a Patreon? Okay, now that the shameless plugging's out of the way, there's good news about custom jets. They're actually one of the simpler things to do in From the Depths once you wrap your head around them. Because all it really is you line up a tube in the correct order and at the correct orientation, and you can stick extra bits on the side of each tube to make the tube do its job better, whatever that tube is. So, firstly, we're going to just run down the custom jet bits. And so there's two kinds of custom jets. There's the big one and there's the small one. And the prefabs, which are proudly on display here, actually will really just demonstrate all the basics of how to build a custom jet already. So I should mention this is not how to build a super efficient custom jet or like the best possible custom jet. This is just the basics. This is just how they all fit together and how you can just make a custom jet to do what you want it to, which is honestly mostly all of what you need, because they are fantastic, because they deliver tremendous amounts of thrust, which is useful for making things go very, very fast when they're main propulsion, or for getting things up in the air when they're very, very heavy. So if you look in-game at stuff like anything that the Grey Talons have, or the Scarlet Dawn, or something like that, they use a lot of custom jets in their airships and their thrustercraft, because even something that's made almost entirely out of heavy armor can be made to levitate like a dandelion seed if you have enough custom jets in them. So, what bits are there in there? So, if you go to the custom jet menu in the air tab, it starts with the intake to pull the air in. The compressor compresses the air that's been taken in and increases the thrust without changing material use. Then you have the jet controller, which is going to skip over the jet generator for now. The controller is the primary component of a jet engine, and that controls everything. The combustor is what actually burns the material at all, so you absolutely need that, and it increases thrust and material use. And then the exhaust, the connector, well, this connector just connects combustors to exhaust and allows you to extend the engine to vent exhaust outward. And then the jet exhaust is what actually spits out the exhaust at the back, and it slightly increases thrust output without changing material use. So you don't actually, strictly speaking, need an exhaust, as I've found, but you do get increased thrust with one, so it's worth it. So the absolutely essential things that you need for a functioning custom jet is just an intake, a controller, a combustor, and not even an exhaust. So you see that this is the absolute smallest kind of custom jet that you can make. It's just the thrust is still pretty high, 12,000 for like just 3 blocks. But if you add an exhaust, it increases the thrust just a little bit. So yeah, absolute minimum, but this is probably the actual practical minimum. So also thank goodness that you can test engines like this on fortresses now. So over here we have the small custom jet, pretty much the same thing. As you can see, it still fires even with no exhaust on the end. Absolutely essential components are just the intake, controller, combustor, and that's it. But there's a bunch of other stuff to do as well. So going back to the compressors, they compress the air and make the thing thrust harder without burning any more materials. And the bits on the side, extra compressors just make the compressors even more efficient. So as you can see right here, all these compressors on the side, they talk about the compression efficiency is like 32.4%, and that gets lower if you take them off. And then extra combustors for the combustion chambers just make it combust harder, so more thrust. It's just more thrust, but the material use does not change. Actually, no, it does. So you combust harder, you do use more material. And the fuel injector is like the combustor, except more so. So you go here, you'll see thrust is 32,000, materials per second is 2.5, and now it's 2.4, but the thrust has dropped quite a bit. So yeah, injectors do add a lot more thrust than combustors, but they also increase the material consumption a lot more. So really don't need that many injectors. In fact, you could probably just have a combustion-only jet engine. And just, you know, have no problems whatsoever. Okay, so that's basically just how you put them together. And then there's a whole bunch of other fancy bits in here that's mostly to do with exhausts. So you go here, and you see that these exhaust connectors allow you to vent the exhaust elsewhere. So if I do this, for instance. So there's our combustion chamber, exhaust connector, and exhaust connector here. And there is a graphical glitch, which means that it's pointing the exhaust the wrong way. Yeah, that's really annoying. Yeah, that's really weird. There we go, now it's pointing the right way. So that's what these things are for, and all that. And then you have a small intake hull, which means you can do this. You can just seamlessly integrate the intakes into the hull itself, and small compressor hull. Actually, a whole thing here, you can just make a whole thing right there, and you can mix and match these all just very nicely. Let's go here and just convert this whole thing. So there's the controller, there's the combustor, and there's an exhaust connector, and an exhaust port hole. And yeah, you can make it boxy. So essentially these are pallet swaps, except they're also slightly more durable and slightly heavier. So yeah, there's that. And now let's talk about the generator, because this is actually kind of good. And I'll use this big fella over here to explain that. So you can basically just put them just before or just after the controller. And what this does, this is fantastic, is all this does is that it converts a percentage of the thrust made by the jet engine into engine power. So if I'm just going to spawn in an engine fortress right here. I'll be back in a second. Alright, so here we are. Okay, so here we are on our engine test fortress, and we can talk about the custom jet engine and the custom jet generator in particular. So let's go here, there, and where is our favorite prefab? Let's go here. Whoop. Just got a little connection block like that. So this thing goes like stink and has a lot of thrust, and it's very, very nice. We have no materials, that's annoying. And let's just replace that, and Rambot's getting a very hot haircut right now. So there's our custom jet, but if we want this thing to, you can essentially turn this thing into an engine all by itself. So you go here, the generator just can charge batteries with energy or provide engine power. So this thing actually provides quite a lot of engine power. Just this big custom jet, 1,524 engine power just immediately. So yeah, we can have our fella over there, 1,500, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And you can do cunning things with this. This is actually kind of efficient. So materials per second is 9, and you can even get really cute and have 100% of that is generate power, generate energy, power priority, just like an engine. And now we've got 7,000 engine power, which is perhaps a bit much. You get, and the bigger the engine, the better it is. So we can go, ta-da! And unlike fuel engines and steam engines and all that stuff, a custom jet engine like this, that number you see down there, how much engine power it is, that's actually flat. It's not disrupted by temperature or any annoying stuff like that. So that's very convenient. And the main use of this is just to provide like extra power for something like a jet fighter. Maybe it's got a heat decoy or something like that. But you can get rather cute with this and just have something like a ship run off just custom jet energy, and it works very nicely. And so that about wraps up for the basics of a custom jet. Is basically you line the tube up in the correct order, so from left to right, and make sure they're pointing the right way. So you just go there, and you go, whoopsie daisy, and you go here. Oh yeah, so for the big jet engines, there's all kinds of wacky things to do with like what direction the air intake is actually pointing. So there's ducted air intakes, which means you can be offset how much air you get into the side, into the top, and it's just all kinds of fun, wacky stuff that you can do that we're not going to go into in detail, because just follow the tubes. Where the tubes are pointing, that's where the air is going. If you just want to keep things simple, you got intake, compressor, generator if you want one, controller, combustor, and exhaust. Ta-da! I have successfully done it. And then, if you want to be cute, you add extra bits on the side for extra power, for extra thrust. So here we go, compressor, ta-da! And this controller, which doesn't take anything. And we're gonna have an extra combustor over there, and injector up there. And that's it. This is a custom jet. And like I said, they are pretty simple as far from the depth stuff goes. Build the tube. Follow the tube left to right. Place it in the correct orientation. And away you go. So as a kind of final demonstration of just how useful custom jets can be, I'm just going to spawn in some faction craft to shoot at each other. And you can see for yourself just how fast and powerful things with custom jets can be. So let's hop over to Great Talons, because that's always hilarious. Let's go to the Kobold, because that's one of my favorites. So if we look at this big fella, and let's just change our fleet colors to Great Talons, because why not? If you shrink the blocks, you'll notice that this thing is a heavy armor brick. It is incredibly heavy, and in fact, let's see here. There's a mass. Where's the mass? Okay, so how to play performance stats, blah, 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 blah. No. Physics, okay. Where the hell is it? There's a mass thing somewhere. Weight. Okay, so the weight of this is 1.5 million. That's heavy. And yet it flies. How the hell does it fly? Well, you'll notice in here it has a whole butt-ton of custom jets. And these custom jets are actually quite clever, because they're set to both control pitch and push, which means that this thing is very stable. So, yeah, and you can see there's cunning things you could do with ducts, and these are not incredibly amazing. They don't even have extra add-ons, really. Well, actually they do. Never mind. They do. They very much do. It's just where they can fit in. But yeah, these are not... The custom jets themselves, they're not amazing. The craft around them is pretty amazing. But yeah, this incredibly big, heavy thing... Well, it's not that big. It's less than 10,000 blocks. But it's very heavy, full of heavy guns and heavy armor, and it's flying just fine. And then you get stuff like... I'm trying to remember what the fastest thing in the game is, because there's some very fast things. Let's see. What's the top speed of stuff? Contingency, let's go. Yeah, I think the velocity with... that is... goes at over 200 meters per second is probably a contender for fastest thing in the game, or fastest thing in Nita actually. And yeah, this thing uses custom jets. It in fact uses pretty big custom jets, and it goes like stink, to the point where the Kobold I don't think is even going to be able to catch it. So yeah, just so you're aware of how fast this thing is going, we are going over 200 meters per second, and it's really only with custom jets that you can reliably and cost-effectively get something to move that fast. You're kind of on a hiding to nowhere if you try and use other kinds of thrusters for that. Unless you go into space, which is hilarious. Also, turns out the Kobold can shoot this thing down just fine, so just be aware, just because you have custom jets doesn't mean you automatically win. The fact that this thing is still flying after taking railguns to the face is actually kind of impressive. So yeah, that's basically a cursory introduction into custom jets. I highly encourage everyone to mess around with them if you haven't already, because they are really good, as you're seeing right now, at making things fly very fast. In this case, disintegrating very fast, but that's only because it got shot in the face. Or for making things that are very big and fat fly and move at all, and it's just very, very nice. So, on that merry note, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell.